On our wedding anniversary, my wife, Victoria, gave me another one of her signature gifts, a big glass ring. She sent a follow-up text. Once I make enough money, I'll replace this big piece of glass with a real diamond. However, a moment later, I saw a post on social media from her childhood friend Julian showing off a Rolex. The caption read, "New Year's gift from my baby. I love it." Before I could even confirm if the hand holding his in the picture belonged to my wife, a message from Julian popped up. "Sincere Carter, did you see my post? Just let her go. She and I are the real deal." I froze for a second, then, to my surprise, felt a wave of relief wash over me. I casually sent him a bill in response. "Congratulations, in that case you can start by paying off her quick cash loan for this month." But before the message could send, he blocked me. A minute later, Julian sent a photo of my wife in black stockings. I didn't bother to open the full image and shot back another message. "If she loves you so much, why didn't she marry you?" This time, the message went through. Julian didn't answer my question. Instead, I got a call from my wife, Victoria Morgan. "Darling, you're not misunderstanding something, are you? You know you're the only one for me. Julian is just a friend I've known since we were kids. Don't be jealous of him, you'll make him overthink things. I have to work late, but you should clear the air with Julian when you get a chance." Victoria's gentle tone was tinged with an urgency, as if she were genuinely afraid I'd gotten the wrong idea. I let out a soft chuckle and hung up. Immediately after, Julian sent me a series of receipts for his purchases. They ranged from small items, like a 500 gold ring, to a Rolex worth over 30,000. Sincere, Victoria bought all of this for me. A woman only spends money on the man she truly loves. She's never spent a dime on you, has she? I really don't get why you won't divorce her. Do you enjoy being the third party in someone else's relationship? I shot back. "Julian, you're the homewrecker. You have the audacity to call me the third party? In love, the one who isn't loved is the real third party still clinging to fantasies. Let me send you something that'll wake you up." I stared at the screen, at the video of Victoria with a lustful, hazy look in her eyes, her intermittent moans filling the audio. A heart that had grown indifferent was suddenly pierced with a sharp, stabbing pain. When I first met Victoria, she was a fiercely ambitious woman. She wanted to prove herself, to become a powerhouse. For her, I, a top university graduate, was content to be the man behind the woman, not caring when people called me a kept man or a freeloader. Over the last 2 years, the company has finally started to find its footing. I'd planned to put the toy ring she gave me on my finger in front of everyone at the annual gala, to show them all that our love was all that mattered. But I never imagined that for those same 2 years she had been using high-interest loans to buy luxury goods for Julian. If Julian hadn't sent that video, I would have never known just how far she'd gone. Even the deepest love can't withstand 2 years of betrayal. And Victoria, still thinking I was in the dark, continued to play the role of the devoted wife. To hell with this. Let someone else be the fool. Taking a deep breath, I picked up my phone. It was time to make some decisions. Just as I was about to dial, another message from Julian arrived. He was surprisingly eager to secure his position. He actually messaged me directly, inviting me to his and Victoria's wedding reception in 3 days. The absurdity was staggering. I clutched my phone, but my breathing eased. I was curious to see just how Julian planned to self-destruct. Sure enough, Victoria, who hadn't been home in 3 days, called. "Darling, it's raining today. I'll come home and pick you up for the company's annual gala." It finally clicked. The day Julian mentioned was today. I wondered, how did my company's annual gala turn into his wedding reception? "Okay, just drive straight into the underground parking garage," I replied and hung up, heading downstairs. When I got to the garage, I found Julian sitting in the passenger seat of my wife's car. He didn't even bother to look back at me. Victoria, however, smiled. "Darling, Julian said he wanted to see what our events are like, so I brought him along." Seeing that I was still staring at the front seat, Victoria's brow furrowed slightly. Honey, you know this. Julian's been frail since he was a child and gets carsick. He can only sit in the front. I glanced at her, and her expression softened instantly, as if she thought her affair was a perfect, seamless secret, utterly laughable. Vicky, Julian suddenly said, turning to look at me with a triumphant smirk. Big C's constitution is probably even weaker than mine, right? I mean, you two have been married for years and still don't have kids. Julian, don't talk nonsense. Your Big C takes herbal supplements every day to get his body in shape. We'll have a child sooner or later. But I interjected, Julian, how do you know our not having kids is my problem? I looked at Victoria pointedly. Before she could react, Julian spoke up. Without a second thought, he said, of course it's because of you. There's obviously nothing wrong with Vicky. After saying this, he gave Victoria a blatant, suggestive wink. I smiled at him. You sound so sure. It's almost as if you've gotten Vicky pregnant yourself. Darling, what are you trying to say? Victoria immediately cut in. Julian and I are just friends. Don't say such things. How can you joke like that? Julian doesn't even have a girlfriend besides. Aren't you just putting horns on your own head by saying that? Her face flushed, whether from my words or Julian's teasing, I couldn't tell. She let out a long sigh after her tirade. Darling, I know you love me, but you can't let your love for me turn everyone else into a perceived rival. I felt a wave of nausea and avoided her gaze, saying nothing. Julian, however, chimed in with a grin. Well, that's because Vicky is just so amazing. Not only is she gentle and considerate, but she's also incredibly capable, easily making 7 figures a year. She's a self-made woman, started from scratch, a true powerhouse in the business world. Julian's eyes shone as he looked at Victoria, but I found his words strange. Was he even talking about Victoria Morgan? Gentle and considerate? A 7-figure salary, started from scratch? Big C, why are you just standing there? Get in the car. If we're any later, the dinner will start without us. He gave me a meaningful look. If we're late, you'll miss the toast from me and Vicky. Victoria interrupted him. What Julian means is, everyone at the company will want to raise a glass to you today, so it wouldn't be right to be late. Seeing the look of pure admiration in Julian's eyes as he gazed at Victoria, I couldn't help but feel disgusted. Right in front of them, I called my driver. Come to the parking garage and take me to the office. Victoria looked surprised, but Julian was ecstatic. Darling, I'm right here. Why are you calling the driver? Vicky, Big C is a man of status. Of course it looks better for him to arrive with a chauffeur. Let's go. Victoria wanted to ask more, but Julian was already rushing her. All she could say was, well, see you at the gala then. She hit the gas and they were gone. They did arrive before me, but without me there, the festivities couldn't begin. When I walked in, I noticed the atmosphere was incredibly strange. Although Victoria wasn't the ultimate owner of the company, she had always been its public-facing manager, and everyone was usually very respectful towards her. But tonight, they were avoiding her like the plague. In contrast, Julian stood boldly by her side, actively networking with the people around them as if he were the host. From the moment I entered the venue, every employee looked at me with pity in their eyes. Perhaps only Victoria could believe her affair was a secret when it was this blatant. I walked to the center of the room and raised my glass, about to announce the start of the dinner, but Julian cut me off. He raised his own glass and gave me a slight nod. Big C, thank you for taking care of Vicky all these years. As he finished, Victoria's face instantly darkened. She hissed in a low voice, Julian, what are you talking about? In what capacity are you thanking me? I asked with a smile, not giving Julian a moment to react. Julian glanced at Victoria, failing to notice her panicked expression. You know. Victoria's mouth opened, but she stood frozen to the spot. I can't watch this anymore. How can a freeloader like you act like the big boss in front of the real deal? Have you no shame? A female voice rang out. It was my assistant, Chloe. What nonsense are you spouting? Victoria immediately spun around and began berating Chloe. You're my husband's assistant, aren't you? Is this how you do your job? Spreading baseless rumors the moment you open your mouth? My husband has always known that Julian and I are close. If you don't know how to speak, then shut up. You're trying to disrupt our family harmony with your lies. Did a donkey kick you in the head? How can you be so malicious? Besides, how we interact is our private business. What right does a dog like you have to comment? Victoria turned to me, fuming. Darling, this employee is slandering Julian's character out of nowhere. We absolutely cannot keep someone like this in the company. She should be fired. Chloe looked at me, her expression a mix of hurt and indignation. Mr. Carter, I'm sorry. I know this isn't my place to interfere, but what? Victoria snapped, cutting her off before turning back to me. I remained silent. Victoria started to panic. Darling, what is the meaning of this? You believe her? You believe her baseless accusations? Are you really going to keep an employee who slanders people so casually? I ignored Victoria and looked calmly at Julian. Didn't you say you were inviting me to your and Victoria's wedding reception? That shouldn't count as a rumor, should it? Julian looked completely innocent. I never said that, Big C. Why would you make a joke like that in front of everyone? Fine, just fine, Victoria pointed at me. Sincere Carter, to protect some rumor-mongering dog, you're willing to pin this on me and Julian. Sincere Carter. Am I that worthless in your eyes? You and your company's dog can just walk all over me, spreading lies in front of all these people. Is this the kind of character your family has? Julian stepped forward, inserting himself between Victoria and me. Big C, it's one thing if you don't like me, but Vicky has been so good to you. How can you have the heart to slander her too? I couldn't stand the sight of his face so close to mine. I grabbed him by the neck and shoved. Get the hell out of my way. Suddenly a glass came flying through the air. I instinctively raised my hand to block it, and it shattered against the back of my hand with a sharp crash. Shards of broken glass embedded themselves deep into my flesh, and blood began to flow. It was Victoria. She didn't even look at my hand. Instead, she rushed to Julian's side, steadying him anxiously before turning on me. Sincere Carter, your parents looked down on me. You looked down on me. And now even your employees dare to look down on me. Julian is the only one who speaks up for me, and you resort to violence before I could say a word. Julian, his face a mask of righteous fury, spoke first. Sincere Carter, are you even a man? You're a grown man, letting Vicky work herself to the bone to support you, to feed you, to clothe you, to give you a big house and a luxury car. Sincere Carter, are you a man? As a fellow man, I'm ashamed of you. I was stunned. Victoria works to support me? It seemed Julian's information was seriously flawed, and here he was wearing the Rolex Victoria bought him, jumping up and down accusing me of being a freeloader. Looking at the agitated Julian, my cold smile was tinged with pity. You're ashamed of me? One by one I pulled the glass shards from the back of my hand. Amid gasps from the crowd, I swung a vicious punch that connected squarely with his face. Then don't fucking look. Julian crumpled like a hen with a broken wing. He spun halfway around, his body reflexively trying to stay upright, before collapsing in a heap. Looking at the astonished employees, I offered an apologetic smile. That punch had nothing to do with any personal grudge. I had simply warned him to get out of my way. He didn't listen. Ah, a sharp cry broke the silence. Victoria had finally snapped out of her shock. She scrambled over to Julian, cradling his head in her arms with anguish. Julian, are you okay? Vicky, I feel so dizzy. I need to go to the hospital. Julian clutched his head, which wasn't even red or swollen, his eyes a little dazed. Frantic, Victoria helped him up and shot me a venomous glare. Sincere Carter, how dare you hit him? He says a few words in my defense, and you try to kill him. Sincere Carter, if anything happens to Julian, I will never forgive you, and the law won't let you get away with it with that. She hastily dragged Julian towards the hospital. Facing the shocked employees, I smiled calmly. Please, everyone, continue eating. Don't let this ruin the company's annual gala. My assistant, Chloe, looked at me with stars in her eyes, mixed with a hint of concern. Mr. Carter, what about Manager Morgan? Don't worry, I'll handle it. Leaving Chloe with a reassuring smile, I made my way unhurriedly to the hospital. As soon as I walked in, I saw Julian in the emergency room. To my surprise, it was Julian, his face still swollen, who was standing to the side holding a report, while Victoria looked as if she had just finished being examined by a doctor. I stood at the doorway and overheard Victoria telling Julian, "Sincere Carter will never divorce me. You know how much he loves me, he'd die for me. No matter what I do, he'll just pretend he doesn't see. I can't get him to agree to a divorce." Julian's face was grim, but his voice was filled with a secret delight. "But now you're pregnant. He can't possibly not question whose child it is. What do we do then? Let's just lay our cards on the table. Tell him you're pregnant, the child is mine. I don't believe he can tolerate even this. He was right, I couldn't tolerate it." I knocked on the door. The moment Victoria saw me, her face went deathly pale. "Darling," she began, her voice trembling. I gave her a calm smile. "You want a divorce?" "No, darling, Victoria tried to explain, but I simply held out a hand, slapping a set of divorce papers down in front of her. "It's fine. I agree." Victoria was stunned. She stared in disbelief at the divorce papers, then back at me. How could you bear to divorce me?" I didn't answer, instead asking, "Are you saying you don't want to?" Victoria hesitated. Beside her, Julian snatched a pen from the windowsill and thrust it into her hand. "Vicky, sign it. Do you want to be with me or not?" Under his threatening gaze, Victoria finally gritted her teeth and quickly signed her name. "Thank you for your cooperation." I signed my own name as well, on all 3 copies. When I handed Victoria her copy, she stared at me intently. "Sincere Carter, you'd better not regret this." I didn't answer, just smiled and turned to leave. I don't know if I'll have regrets, but I know for certain that she will. Victoria had forgotten many things, just as she had forgotten her vow of one life, one love, one partner. When we got married, I told her, "You can stop loving me, you can leave, but never, ever betray me." The next time I saw Victoria and Julian was a month later, after the mandatory cooling-off period for the divorce. With the freshly issued divorce certificate in my hand, I waited for them outside City Hall. Victoria and Julian emerged, hand in hand. Victoria, wearing a striking red silk dress, lowered her head when she saw me, but Julian was beaming with joy. He adjusted his bow tie and spoke with feigned surprise. "Big C, are you waiting for Vicky?" "Ah, well, you were husband and wife. It's understandable to be a little reluctant to let go." He smugly waved the marriage certificate he had just obtained. "Speaking of which, you're a real class act, Big C. A wife this good, and you just let me have her." Congratulations," I nodded perfunctorily. "I just wanted to ask you, has her information been updated? Information?" Julian looked confused. "Yes, all the legal information, marital status, emergency contact, things like that." "Of course. Why do you ask?" Julian's eyes were blank. I smiled warmly. "As long as it's updated. I'd rather not receive any more mysterious bills." "Bills? What bills?" Julian's face was a question mark. "For example, from Quick Cash. Here's one. Remember to pay it by the 8th. Last month's payment is already overdue." I sent him a screenshot. "What Quick Cash?" Julian looked down at his phone, froze for a second, then suddenly burst out laughing. "Big C, who are you trying to fool? Vicky makes 7 figures a year. How could she owe money to Quick Cash? Ha! I see what this is. You got divorced, you're bitter, and now you're trying to stir up trouble between us." Beside him, Victoria flinched at the mention of the loan. She glanced at Julian but said nothing. I smiled. "You're overthinking it. I sincerely hope your love is stronger than steel." "Well said, Big C," Julian said smugly. "My love for Vicky isn't about material things. Your petty tricks can't shake our bond." I smiled, gratified, and proceeded to send him all of Victoria's accounts for various buy now, pay later services, style pay, foodie credit, shop now. Julian was getting annoyed. He glanced at them. "Sincere, you really have too much time on your hands. The woman doesn't love you anymore. Just let it go." What's the point of photoshopping all these fake bills? He casually looked up, saw the red dress on Victoria, then looked back at his phone. You even managed to match the dress Vicky is wearing. You must have put a lot of work into this, huh? What dress? Victoria finally spoke, leaning closer to Julian to see his phone. Julian scoffed. He's saying this custom-made dress of yours was actually bought online. Victoria froze, then stammered, "Oh, yes, it was." The smile on Julian's face froze. His mouth hung open. "So besides this dress, what else did you buy?" "Julian, what did he send you?" "You know what he's like, a pathological liar. Always spreading rumors, don't let him trick you with that." Victoria snatched the phone from Julian's hand. When she saw the records of various debts, her lips trembled. "These are all fake," she said, glancing nervously at Julian. "Julian, do I look like someone who's short on cash?" Julian's expression shifted. He suddenly burst into laughter. "Sincere Carter, oh sincere Carter, you're really pulling out all the stops just to get under our skin." His phone suddenly rang. He answered it while looking lovingly at Victoria. "Let's be clear, Vicky doesn't need to borrow money from Quick Cash, and even if she did, I'd sell everything I own to pay it back for her." What's wrong, honey?" Victoria asked nervously. "You've been borrowing money all over town?" Julian's face turned an even deeper shade of red than when I had punched him. I stood to the side, thoroughly pleased. In the past, Victoria always used my phone number for her loans. Every time a payment was due, my phone would be flooded with collection calls. It was endlessly annoying. Now finally, someone else was answering those calls. Victoria's face was ashen. "Honey, what on earth is wrong?" "Some debt collectors just called me. They said if you don't pay up today, they're going to come find me and cut off my hands," Julian said, his voice dazed. Yes, I understood completely. I'd had dealings with the people who called for Victoria once before. They were professional loan sharks, and they talked tough. It was no wonder Julian was terrified. After just one phone call, Victoria was also stunned. Her shock finally snapped Julian back to his senses. He slapped her hard across the face. "You really have been borrowing money? You owe money to 7 or 8 different places. The monthly payments are over $10,000. Are you trying to get me killed?" Julian was roaring. Victoria, pale as a ghost, suddenly clutched her stomach and let out a little ouch, ouch. Julian's eyes cleared slightly, but his tone remained furious. "Say something, damn it, they're coming to cut off my hands. What are we going to do?" "Fuck, honey, don't get so worked up." Victoria cradled her stomach. "Don't fall for his trap. He's just jealous of our happiness and wants to cause trouble for us. That's why he dug up all this stuff. First Quick Cash, then all these bills, and now collection calls. He's divorced from me, what does he care?" Julian gritted his teeth and shot me a suspicious look. "But these debts—" "Don't worry about the debts, we still have our marital assets." Victoria cut him off. Julian's eyes instantly lit up. "That's right, you're officially divorced today, which means it's time to divide the assets, right?" He was beaming again. "Just the house and the 2 cars are worth at least $200,000. A few measly debts are nothing. Big C is so generous after all." He sneered again. I smiled too. "You're underestimating. The house alone is worth nearly $300,000 on the market. With the 2 cars, it's at least $350,000. But none of it has anything to do with either of you." "What, you think you're above the law, Big C?" Julian scoffed. I continued to smile gently. "This is a society of laws. No one is above the law, and I am certainly acting in accordance with it." Ignoring Victoria's suddenly changed expression, I continued, "Victoria and I signed a prenuptial agreement. Whoever cheats leaves with nothing. What proof do you have that I cheated?" Victoria began quickly, but then she stopped, subconsciously glancing down at her own slightly swelling belly. She bit her lip hard, her face turning a ghastly shade of pale, her eyes filled with venom. She continued in a low, chilling voice, "Sincere Carter, I can get rid of this child. As soon as I do, you won't have any evidence. And Julian and I can always have more children. Right, Julian?" she said, turning to him. only to be met by his ashen face. "Julian, what's wrong?" "It's okay, Julian. I can give you more children in the future. Lots and lots of them," Victoria cooed, trying to comfort him. "He has proof," Julian said, his face as white as a sheet. "What proof?" Victoria froze. "I sent him the video of us in bed." Victoria was dumbfounded. She stood there, stunned, for a full minute before her face twisted into a mask of rage and she let out a piercing shriek. "Julian Vance, are you a stupid pig? Why would you send him that kind of thing?" Victoria was so furious snot was bubbling from her nose. "I told you not to film it back then, but you said you wanted to commemorate our love. I swear, I really— Commemorate my ass, you idiot, you're the other man. How dare you send proof of the affair to her husband? How the hell was I supposed to know you two signed some bullshit prenup?" Julian yelled back, his face a mask of regret. He suddenly turned to me, his eyes bloodshot, his fists clenched. "This is all your fault. You designed this whole thing. You orchestrated everything." He threw the marriage certificate to the ground and stalked towards me, snarling. But an arm suddenly shot out, blocking his path. The owner of the arm was a stranger. He held up the marriage certificate Julian had just thrown and brought it close to Julian's face. "Are you Victoria Morgan's husband?" "Fuck you. Get lost." Julian didn't even bother to look, swatting the arm away viciously. His answer was a hard punch to the face. "Son of a bitch owes money and still acts this tough, boys. Get him." Several burly men instantly surrounded Julian. Dust flew, mingled with Julian's pained screams. After a flurry of kicks, Julian became completely submissive. He covered his head, blood streaming from his nose. "Boss, it's a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding." The leader, Spike, grabbed Julian by the hair. "Misunderstanding my ass? When are you going to pay me back the money you owe?" "I don't owe you money, boss. You've got the wrong person," Julian explained frantically. "Wrong person? It's written right here. Aren't you Victoria Morgan's husband?" The marriage certificate was once again shoved in Julian's face. "No." Julian shook his head repeatedly. Smack. The leader slapped him again. "The proof is right here and you still deny it? You think I'm blind?" "Stop hitting him," a shriek rang out. Victoria, who had been frozen with fear, finally snapped out of it. She rushed forward and grabbed the leader's arm. "He's not my husband, then who is?" Victoria pointed a finger viciously at me. "Him, he has money, and he's been the one paying my debts all along," she added. Several pairs of eyes focused on my face. The leader spoke tentatively. "Buddy, who are you to her?" "Her ex-husband." "Just divorced," I answered with a smile. "Smart move. This woman is a spendthrift, and on top of that, you paid so much for her, and she doesn't even appreciate it." "Get lost, you spendthrift bitch. Don't make me beat you up too." The man, Spike, snarled, scaring Victoria away. He turned and kicked Julian again. "Tell me, when are you paying?" "Go after the person who owes you the money." Julian was already crying. "I've been collecting debts for a long time, and I've never met such a shameless man." Another slap landed on Julian's face. "Are you a man or not?" "Stop, please stop," Julian sobbed, tears and snot streaming down his face. I'll pay when?" The man raised his hand, ready to strike again. "1 week, give me 1 week, I'll get the money," Julian stammered. "Fine. I'll give you 1 more week. If you don't have the money in a week, you'd better watch your back and don't even think about hiding. I'm known for being relentless. Until the debt is paid, I'll find you wherever you go." I never give up. After delivering his threat, the man turned back to me. "Brother, about today's business," I sighed. "Paying your debts is just the way of the world, and if a conflict arises during debt collection, a little scuffle is normal. What does it have to do with me?" The man chuckled. "That's right, just a scuffle. After it's done, we all go our separate ways. Let's go." He waved his hand, and he and his cronies left as quickly as they came. Victoria scrambled over again, crying, trying to help Julian up, but they both ended up tumbling to the ground. Watching her festive red dress get instantly filthy, I felt a sense of weariness. Once upon a time. Shaking my head slightly, I prepared to leave when a hoarse laugh suddenly came from the ground. "Sincere, Carter, don't think you've won." "Yeah, You have the company, the cars, the house, and that pretty assistant at the office gets stars in her eyes whenever she talks about you. God knows what she sees in a freeloader like you. Julian's face was completely twisted with hate. Paired with his newly swollen face, he looked like something out of a horror movie. He lay on the ground, covered in dust, his voice dripping with venom. But it doesn't matter how many pretty women bat their eyes at you. You can't have children. You will never have children in this lifetime. I stopped walking. Julian grew even more smug. He sat up. What's wrong? Did I hit a nerve? I remained non-committal, asking instead, and why will I never have children in this lifetime? Isn't it obvious? You were married for years, and Vicky never got pregnant. Julian looked at me with glee. I heard from Vicky that you never use protection, and you're always drinking those herbal remedies. Victoria's eyes lit up as well. She cleared her throat and spoke in a soft voice. Sincere, we were married after all. I'm not a completely heartless person. Since you can't have children, you're destined to be childless. You have a company, cars, a house. What's the point if you have no children to inherit it all? How about this? Julian chimed in. Vicky will have the baby, and I'll let the child call you godfather. Or you could just raise the child as your own. Let him call you dad. You can give him the company and everything. That way you'll have someone to take care of you in your old age, right? I truly couldn't believe that even now these two were still after my company. But I was more surprised by Julian's confidence in my infertility. I asked, why are you so sure the problem is with me and not Victoria? Isn't it obvious? Vicky is pregnant with my child, so it must be your problem, Julian burst out laughing. I asked a doctor. He said this situation is most likely due to a low sperm count. A man with a low sperm count. What's the difference between that and a eunuch? Ha ha. I started laughing too, even louder than Julian. Wiping away a tear of laughter, I said, Are you Superman, or do your little swimmers know magic? Julian was confused. What do you mean? I mean, Victoria has blocked fallopian tubes. She can't ovulate normally. So how exactly did you get her pregnant? How did you know? Victoria shrieked. I've never had a physical exam before we got married. You said you were afraid I was a playboy and might have some disease, so you insisted on a premarital checkup. I joked that if one of us was getting checked, we both should. Victoria looked terrified. She instinctively turned her head and met Julian's stony pale face. She shuddered. Julian, don't listen to his nonsense. He's just trying to drive a wedge between us. You're carrying some bastard's child and you lied to me, telling me you loved me? Julian roared from deep in his throat. Victoria panicked. Julian, I'm not sick. The baby is really yours. She suddenly cried out in pain as Julian punched her hard in the stomach. I knew the dates didn't add up. If I hadn't seen your husband drinking those herbal remedies every day, I would have been suspicious a long time ago. Tell me, you whore. Who else have you been sleeping with? He demanded, his face contorted with rage. Victoria collapsed to the ground, clutching her stomach. She tried to explain weakly, Julian, I didn't cheat on you. I had a risky egg retrieval surgery at the hospital and then artificial insemination. She pleaded, don't be angry. I did it because I love you. I wanted to use this baby to keep you, to make you happy. Love me? Julian kicked her hard in the abdomen. I threw away my pride for you, became a kept man, got beaten up, took on your debts. He ignored the blood spreading beneath her and stomped down hard. It's one thing to have no money, but you get knocked up with some bastard's kid and tell me it's because you love me. Sighing, I pulled out my phone. Officer, there's a man here beating a pregnant woman. It was spring again. I sat on the sofa staring blankly at a woman on the screen. She was crying and laughing at the same time. I was wrong, forgive me. A soft body leaned against me. That woman looked so pitiful. Hey, doesn't she look like Manager Morgan? I wrapped my arm around her, inhaling the sweet scent of her perfume, and reached out to gently touch the cheek of the small bundle in her arms. I don't know. Can't recognize her. What about that Julian guy? In prison. He'll probably have a very hard time having children in this lifetime. Assaulting a pregnant woman and causing a miscarriage is an aggravated felony, with a sentence starting at 10 years. Not to mention, Julian had assaulted his own wife of less than half an hour, rupturing both her ovaries and uterus, causing permanent psychiatric damage, and rendering her unable to ever conceive again. For this, Julian was sentenced to 17 years if a man who committed such a crime, spent over a decade in prison, and came out with no skills still managed to find a woman willing to have his children, well, he must be the chosen one. My hand, which was stroking the baby, accidentally strayed. A soft, gentle giggle sounded in my ear. You said you were never sick, so why did you drink those herbal remedies every day back then? I really thought you... I held the soft body in my arms tighter. That's a very good question. Who knows? My parents had always wanted grandchildren. I always told them that Victoria was focused on her career, and there was no rush to have children. After a while, afraid the pressure would get to Victoria, I changed my story and said I had some minor health issues and needed to take herbal remedies to get my body in shape. For some reason, I suddenly remembered the last question Victoria ever asked me. That day, as she was being loaded into the ambulance, her face pale, she suddenly asked, "So you knew from the beginning that I couldn't have children. Why did you still marry me?" I smiled softly and closed the laptop. Yeah, who knows?